It's almost that time of year where we need to pot up our chili plants into their final pot size before sticking them out into the greenhouse and the polytunnel. And that means we need a lot of compost. There's one compost in particular that I'm a big fan of, and that is vermicompost or worm poop. I have quite a few wormeries that I run, and they've been going all year round. I've been running them now for probably 2 or 3 years, and they've been doing pretty great. I get quite a lot of compost out of them, and I think it's time to go and check in on them and see how they've done over this winter. So we can see I've actually put some paper in here recently with some apples and stuff like that. Trying to keep them fed through the winter. They don't eat as much as when they're in the summertime, but they are still active during the winter. So we can see here these apples are nicely rotting, so that's perfect. And the worms will really go to town on that. It's good to break it up a little bit, helps them out. But if we dig a little bit underneath all this, we'll start seeing these worms. And let's see where they all are. So here's a whole stack of them. So you see there. And these guys are just going to get very active once summer comes along, once the weather starts warming up. So we can see there, they are looking a little bit lethargic, but they'll be just fine, and they'll start really populating quite rapidly once the weather warms up. But plenty of great compost in here. All this down here, this is good stuff, and we'll dry it out. We'll get the worms to move from one side to the other. We'll start piling food up onto the one side alone, and in about a month's time we'll see that all the worms would have migrated to where the food is. So normally I only feed on one side at a time, but during the winter I just threw food in all over the place, just to make sure that they were properly fed. But the worms are doing okay, plenty of compost. So this worm bin or worm sink, whatever you want to call it, is doing quite well. Anyway, I'm going to stop playing around with them now and just let them get back to doing what they do. And let's check out the next bin. So this one here is one that I made in a previous video. And let's see, I've got loads of paper in there just to soak up any excess moisture that might be in there. So we can see lots of this paper. They do love cardboard. There's a bit of a sugary substance that keeps the cardboard all together, and the worms just absolutely love it. Of course, they're going to eat all these apples as well. Well, they don't eat them directly. They eat the enzymes and the bacteria that breaks down the apples and the fruit and the vegetables, and that's what they're actually eating. They're not eating the food itself. That's all I want to see. I just want to make sure that we have got worms, and you can see we've got plenty in there. And same as the other bin, summertime comes along, these guys are just going to rapidly populate this bin once again. Food doesn't break down as quickly in the winter time, just because the enzymes and everything are not as active during that colder period of the year. But summer comes along and these guys will go into overdrive. But there we go, we've got enough worms in here to really do some good work in this bin. And again, we've got plenty of great compost down the bottom there. That stuff there is just pure gold. So plenty to work with, and you really don't need a lot of this. I usually use about 1 part this compost to 10 parts of traditional compost. So we've got one last worm bin or worm tower to go have a look at, and let's go do that now. So this here is my worm tower, and I only recently put some food in here, probably about a day or two ago, and just covered it over, but underneath the worms are doing just fine, as you can see down there. And I can see lots and lots of activity in there. There's an avocado. Wow, that's a serious root from an avocado pip. That's pretty incredible. But the worms are having a good old go in there, but check it out. That's impressive. So yeah, the worms, quite an abundance in here as well. And they love the coffee grounds. So you can see I put coffee grounds in with the actual paper. The paper is biodegradable too. And again, some more cardboard paper and some more apples. So I can see plenty worms, and I can also see a few eggs in here, and I know I'll be seeing a lot more of the eggs in the next probably 2 or 3 weeks. They're going to really start reproducing, and again we're just going to have a massive abundance of worms. But yeah, I'm trying to find an egg to show you. So the worms, when they reproduce, they lay these little eggs. They look like little shiny yellow melon shaped things, and you get about, there we go, there's one. Well, there's actually 2 on my finger there, but you get about, I think about 5 to 10 worms from each of these eggs, and I believe they can lay an egg every 2 weeks, so they can reproduce very, very quickly. So the way that this worm tower works is a pretty good idea. I think it's just a little bit overpriced for what it is. You basically put a new layer on each time a layer gets full. So if you look underneath there, you can see that's composted down, and then you're just going to stick a new one on top, and when that's all composted down, you put another layer on top. But I like my other bins actually a little bit more than this. Yeah, this is looking good. It's a little bit drier than the other bin, and that's not necessarily a good thing. You want it to have some moisture because the worms need to have moisture in there. But there's plenty of fresh apple and things like that, so if they didn't want to be in the dry area, then they can always go to where the apple is. In case you're wondering, the reason I have so many apples is because I pick up any of the apples that the supermarkets throw away that they say are out of date, and I know the worms love it. As long as you balance it out, you don't want just apples in here. You need to balance it out with cardboard, coffee. You just want to make sure that they're not just having this, because they won't last very long if it's just going to be a messy pile of apple in here. So we're going to cover this back up, let the worms carry on doing their thing, breaking that down. I will do another update maybe in about a month's time, and just if you take note of what we're looking at here, you'll see in a month's time this will be broken down much more than what you see right now. My worms have done a fantastic job over the winter, and I have plenty vermicompost, more than enough to do what I need, which is to fill up 100 pots for my 100 chili plants that'll be going into the greenhouse and the polytunnel for the rest of the season. We'll be doing the potting up in about 3 weeks time, 4 weeks time. It really depends on when the last frosts will be here. So keep an eye out for that video, and you'll see what I do in terms of the mix that I use with the vermicompost and a few other ingredients as well. And there's a bit of an experiment that I'm going to be doing this year as well. One of my subscribers has sent me some pretty cool compost that I've never tried before, and I will be comparing it side by side with my vermicompost, and we'll see how that goes throughout the season. So I'll tell you a bit more about that in the potting up episode. I hope that videos like this around my worms and that sort of thing gives you some inspiration to maybe start your own worm farm. I have got videos that I'll link up above or down in the description showing you how to make your own worm farm. You don't have to spend a lot. And I'll do a video in the future as well on how to get worms without having to buy them online, because the worms you use for vermicomposting are a special type of worm. The European nightcrawler or the red wriggler, there's a few out there, and if you don't want to buy them, there are ways to get them without having to do that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, stay spicy.